My last podcast attracted a lot of contributions. Therefore, I would like to make clarifications. We do not have metallurgical coke in Nigeria, whether in Enugu or in Kogi State. If you remember what I said last time, why bother yourself trying to produce iron from a 33% content where the industrial average is 66 to 67%? It's going to cost you so much. Russia, being the country that has the largest resources in the world in terms of volume and quantity and quality, their economy is just $2 trillion. Japan, on the other hand, that has nothing. Their economy is about $5 to $6 trillion. It is not a matter of opinion. It is not a matter of politics, of religion. It's a matter of pure fundamental physics and chemistry. We don't even have enough money now for capital projects. So how do you take whatever is left to go and start producing iron when you can buy it cheaper than what you can produce? Hello everybody, my name is Dr. Caesar Osahene Yayi. I am your advocate for the industrial development of Africa, industrial development of Nigeria, a process I believe ought to begin in Nigeria because we have the largest gas reserve, we have the largest oil reserve, we have the largest population. My last podcast attracted a lot of contributions and criticisms. I refer to them as constructive criticisms. Therefore, I would like to make clarifications because what we are looking for at this point in Africa, at this point in Nigeria, are not opinions. We are looking for hard realities, facts, positions that can give us leverage in order for us to be able to produce what we consume. So on Ajaokuta, some of the replies that I got, they said, number one, what I said was wrong because we can produce coke at Ajaokuta that can be used to feed our blast furnace in Ajaokuta. To them, I would say that is true. We do have a plant in Ajaokuta that can produce coke from coal. However, we do not have metallurgical coke in Nigeria, whether in Enugu or in Kogi State. I repeat, Nigeria does not have metallurgical coke or coal in Enugu or Kogi. What we have is what you call thermal coke. There are two different properties. You need metallurgical coke in order for you to be able to produce coke. Coal that is not metallurgic, that is just thermal, like what we have in Ajaokuta, in Kogi State, and in Enugu, cannot be used to produce coke, even with the machine that we have at Ajaokuta. That is point number one. Therefore, we have to import coal that is metallurgical, that we can now use to produce coke. Before we now start about how to now use coke to produce iron ingots at Ajaokuta, I said that Ajaokuta with a blast furnace can never work. And people said, no, it can work. I want to repeat that it cannot work because of the economics involved. One, you will have to import coal or coke. If you say you want to import coal, you still have to bring it in and use the coking machine that we have there. And what do you do when you import coal. You want to produce coke from coal. You have to break it down, pulverize it, and pass it through some chemical processes, a lot of heat going through it to remove all the impurities. And then you still have to come and pelletize it. All that requires a lot of cost. If you remember what I said last time, I said, why bother yourself trying to produce iron from a 33% content where the industrial average is 66 to 67%? It's going to cost you so much to, number one, move coal, assuming that it is possible for us to use our coal in Kogi State or Enugu. You still have to transport it by road. Very expensive. If you bring it in from foreign countries, just like we did the few experimental tests that we had in 1994, we had to import the coal. We had to import the iron ore. We could not use our own iron ore because the content is poor. If you want to do that, you have to do what you call beneficiation. If you want to beneficiate a 33% iron ore content to 66%, you have to bring in machinery, which you probably have there, to grind the iron, do magnetic separation, and then you now pulverize and pelletize after removing all the impurities like aluminium, ammonia, and other elements that you don't need. It must be perfect. This is the physics of it. It is not a matter of opinion. It is not a matter of politics. It's not a matter of religion. It's a matter of pure fundamental physics and chemistry. The properties that are required must be present. You can't avoid it. All these things must be in place in order for you to be able to produce what you want to produce. The plant that was installed since the time of Shagari, they only did a push and start operational test, which is completely inimical to a blast furnace. Why is that so? A blast furnace is a continuous production system. You are pouring in the iron ore, and then the oxygen is coming from below, and then you mix it with the coke to produce what you will refer to now as pig iron. And what is pig iron? Pig iron is very, very high in carbon. It is from there you now come back again to reduce the iron content, the carbon content, to be able to get steel. So what was done in 1994 was not a continuous production test. It was just a minor, maybe a few hours test. And once that is done to a blast furnace, the shock wave will crumble the internal system where you lay the brick, because you must lay thermal brick, the shock wave, and then because it's a continuous flow that's supposed to work continuously without interruption. Mind you, this system is different from the one that we have in Alaja, which is a direct reduction and electric arc furnace. That is a batch system where you can put in some material, you start it and off, on and off, on and off. There are no brake lining inside there. It's a crucible. But in the case of a blast furnace, which we have in Ajaokuta, once you put it off, to restart it again, you need a minimum of 6 months repair and retrofit to be able to continue the process. That is why that blast furnace that we have in Ajaokuta is not effective for our own system. Somebody wrote that we have a 110 megawatts of electricity power right there at Ajaokuta. It is true, but is it functional? Is there gas? All these things now that are put in the hands of government, once you remove them from the hands of government and you put them in the hands of private sector, it will make economic sense, but not to produce iron. Because iron is selling for $300 a ton in Turkey, in Russia, in Ukraine, in Australia. So if you want to say, because you are Nigeria, you want to produce iron, number one, you have to remove that plant that you have there in Ajaokuta, the blast furnace. Remove it and throw it away. It's scrap. You can bring in a direct reduction and electric arc to the system there. But even at that, how do you now produce iron ingot economically? It doesn't make economic sense. We don't have infinite resources. We have a system where our resources are limited. We are struggling to even maintain our recurrent expenditure. We don't even have enough money now for capital projects. So how do you take whatever is left to go and start producing iron when you can buy it cheaper than what you can produce? Nothing to worry about. Maybe 100 years from now, 150 years from now, 200 years from now, must have exhausted their iron in Turkey, in China and other places. And then it will not make sense to go back and produce iron in Nigeria with the low iron content that we have. You cannot do beneficiation and it will make economic sense. But as at now, it doesn't make any sense to do that. Somebody wrote also that the plant is working in some other countries, whether it's Turkey, India. I know one is working in Britain. One is working right now in Britain. Why are they able to do that? Because they have metallurgical coal that they can transform into coke. They have the technology. We don't have any of these things. So our emphasis in terms of physics, in terms of chemistry and economics should be on how to reduce the irrelevant part of our industrialization process and focus on how we can leapfrog. When I say leapfrog, I'm talking about a situation where you bring in iron ingot and you pass it through a direct reduction, electric arc to produce whatever you want. You add alloys to it to get whatever you want. And then you start producing finished products. They have more value. Russia is producing a lot of iron that they export. But Russia, being the country that has the largest resources in the world in terms of volume and quantity and quality, their economy is just $2 trillion. Japan, on the other hand, that has nothing except human beings. Their economy is about $5 to $6 trillion. So you see that when you focus on producing intermediate raw materials, that is not the way to accelerate your economic growth or your industrialization process. Japan produces 10 million cars, that's Toyota, in a year. 10 million vehicles in a year that they produce. That they ship all over the world that we use here in Nigeria. So the way forward for Nigeria is industrialization. And that industrialization should start by focusing on how to reduce the waste in the process. Dangote today is producing and refining petroleum, is producing cement. Give that project to government. It will not work. It works when it is in the hands of the private sector. That is why I'm advocating that government should encourage people in the private sector to go into industrial manufacturing. Not to go and revive Ajaokuta because it doesn't make economic sense. The physics and the chemistry do not support it. So let anybody who believes that he's an expert because he worked in Ajaokuta for 30 years and things can work and all that, those are emotional considerations. They don't belong in the realm of industrialization. We should talk about things that can make us go forward, not backwards. Emotionally and psychologically, it would be nice for us to say we have coal in Nigeria, we can do beneficiation. That would have been very nice. I would have been very happy. But the facts do not support that. Let facts support our decisions, not opinions. We have an opinion and we now try to make sure that that opinion is correct. That can be true in politics. But in manufacturing, that is the wrong approach. The right approach is to look at the physics, look at the chemistry, and you look at the economics to take a decision as to what is best for us. So it may be very good for China to use coke because they have metallurgical coal. It may be good because Britain has metallurgical coal, but Nigeria does not have metallurgical coal. And even if we do, our iron content is poor. The iron content they have in China is very rich. The iron content they have in Russia is very rich. We are polar opposite. We have areas where we have advantages and areas where other countries have advantages. We should play to the areas where we have advantages. That is not to say that we don't have anything to do with processing iron. Like I said before, let us import iron ingots and use the gas that we have, add value to the iron ingots we are going to import to produce various parts that will give us higher value and better return on our investment. I remain your advocate for the industrial manufacturing of Africa, a process that will begin in Nigeria. My name is Dr. Cesar Osahene Yayi. Until next time, bye-bye.